Okay, so in this talk, I will talk on joint work with Tony Bonner, Ederson, Moreira dos Santos, and Robson Nascimento, and with some other work with another team of people, which consists in Tony Bonner, Tianxian Gu, and Louis Jean-Jean. Okay, so the plan. Okay. The plan of this talk will be the following. So I will first introduce the equation I will be interested in. And then I will discuss the existence of on-state solution, that is a solution coming from minimizing a certain functional under an L2 sigma plus 2 constraint. And then I will talk about the existence of normalized solution, that is solution obtained by minimizing a certain functional under a mass constraint. And so in this case, we will see that there is two very different regimes. So the first one, which I call subcritical case, and the second one, which I will call supercritical case. Okay, so let me begin by introducing the equation I will be interested in. So like the main of this talk will be this fourth order Schrödinger equation. So basically it is exactly like the classical Schrödinger equation, except I have added this bi-harmonic term. And more particularly, more precisely, I will focus on two types of solution. So the first type of solution is called standing wave, and they are solution of this form. And so you see that if I plug this and that into the dispersive equation, then I obtain this elliptic PD of fourth order. And the other type of solution I will consider is traveling wave solution. And so in this case, on that, the form of the solution will be this one. And so one more time, if I plug this and that into my dispersive equation, I get this elliptic PD. So the only difference is this first order term. So before proceeding, make a stupid remark, and it is on traveling wave. And in fact, if you consider the standard equation, so when you do not have the bi-harmonic term, then it is quite easy to see that, in fact, traveling wave are equivalent to standing wave. Okay, you have the Galilean transform, and so if you have a traveling wave, then you can transform it into a standing wave. But this is not the case for NLS when you have a bi-Laplacian. Okay, so let me give some motivation for this equation. In fact, the bi-harmonic term has been introduced by Karpman and Chagaloff in order to regularize and stabilize solution to the classical nonlinear Schrödinger equation. So let me be more precise about what I mean. So if you consider the classical Schrödinger equation with a general pure power nonlinearity, that is this equation, then it is very well known that you have two regimes. So in the first one, when sigma n is less than 2, then it is well known that all solutions to this equation exist globally in time, and you know that standing waves are orbitally stable. Whereas if you assume that sigma n is greater than 2, then you have some solution which blow up in finite time, and it is also known that standing wave solution become unstable. Let me point out that like the physical case in nonlinear optics corresponds to the case sigma equal to 1, which corresponds to a Kerr nonlinearity, and n is equal to 2. And so in this physical case, basically, you are in this second alternative. So your solution might blow up. And okay, maybe it is not what you want. So next, what is happening if you add the bi-harmonic term? In fact, it has been observed by Philippe Chelian and Papanicolaou, so using a combination of stability analysis and numerical simulation, that you also have two regimes. So sigma n is less than 4, and in this case, they are able to show that solution exists globally in time. And they also show that standing wave solutions are stable, whereas when sigma n is greater than 4, then the standing wave solutions are unstable. So let me just do two quick observations. So the first one is now, like the physical case, become subcritical, okay, which might be good for physicians. And the second remark is to prove the existence of solution blowing up in finite time when sigma n is greater than 4 is quite complicated, and it only has been proved quite recently. Okay, so let me just say also that you can motivate the add of the bi-harmonic term also from a phenomenological point of view, but I will not discuss it now. Okay, so as I was saying, I will be mostly interested in the two elliptic PDEs I showed you before. And basically, if you look for solution of these two elliptic equations, then there is two natural ways to do it. So the first one consists in minimizing under a mass constraint, and the second one consists in minimizing under an L2 sigma plus 2 constraint. So the minimization under the mass constraint is very natural from the dispersive point of view, since the mass is a conserved quantity by the elliptic equation, and so it is quite natural to make this constraint. On the other hand, the L2 sigma plus 2 constraint is very natural from an elliptic point of view. Okay, let me first start to discuss the minimization under the L2 sigma plus 2 constraint. And so we will obtain what we call state solution. So solution with the minimum energy. Okay, so more precisely, what problem we will consider is the following. So we will minimize this quadratic form on the set of function u belonging to H2 such that their L2 sigma plus 2 norm is equal to 1. So let me first do a very stupid remark, is the fact that if you assume that gamma and alpha are positive, okay, if beta is not too negative, then you can show quite easily that this quadratic form is in fact equivalent to the H2 norm. So this is exactly this constant. So if you assume that alpha and gamma are positive and beta is greater than this constant, then it is very easy to show that this functional is equivalent to the H2 norm. Another quite stupid remark is the fact that if you get a minimizer, then this minimizer will solve this equation. And so in this equation, you see the operation of a Lagrange multiplier, n. But in this case, it is quite easy, like you just have to rescale in order to make it disappear. Okay. So let me present a result obtained by Donner and Nascimento. And so basically they assume this assumption on the coefficient, which guarantee that the quadratic form, the energy is coercive and positive. And they assume that the nonlinearity is Sobolev subcritical. And so in this case, they show that your problem has a non-trivial solution, so which is quite easy to see. But more interestingly, they prove that if beta is positive and greater than this number, in fact, the solution you obtain has a sign and is radially symmetric. So let me give you briefly a sketch of this proof, because it is quite interesting. So in this sketch, I will assume that gamma, so the term, the coefficient in front of the bi-harmonic term is equal to 1. And as I say, I will assume that beta is greater than this quantity. And so a point is, the trick is consists in rewriting your equation into a system. So you can do this. And due to the assumption we have made on the coefficient, in fact, we can prove that this system is cooperative, namely this coefficient is positive. And so now we have this rewriting of the equation. In fact, we can use a result of Bouska-Sirachov, which says that if u and v has a sign, then in fact it implies that u and v are strictly radially decreasing. So basically, the whole proof boils down to prove that u and v have a sign. So how are you doing this? So you take your solution to your minimization problem, and you define W in this form. Okay, and so by contradiction, we will assume that minus WU plus beta 2U change sign. And so you see quite easily from the maximum principle that W has to be greater than the absolute value of U. And then what you are doing is you are just testing your energy with this function W. And using basically this fact, you can prove that in fact the energy of this function is strictly less than the one of the ground state, which is of course a contradiction. And so you get that your solution has a sign, okay? And now you just have to apply the result of Bousquet and Sirakoff, and you conclude that your solution is radially symmetric. Okay. Also, I forget to point out, but the point is, in this case, due to the biharmonic term, you cannot use like the standard technique, which consists in using the decreasing rearrangement, because it is not H2. So somehow you have to use other tricks. Okay, so next, let's consider the same problem, but this time for traveling wave solution. So basically, it is exactly the same problem, except I have changed the quadratic form, and I have added this term. So this is just a convention. Of course, it is a real term, but okay, I will write it like this, but it is a convention. I will just come back to this a bit later. And so we will minimize this quadratic form also on function u belonging to H2, and we will have this L2 sigma plus 2 constraints. So as I was saying, like by convention, I will denote this term. In fact, it corresponds to the imaginary part of this. And it also corresponds to the momentum. So once more, so if you look at this quadratic form, and if you assume that gamma, beta, and alpha are positive, then you can show that this is also equivalent to an H2 norm if the vector V is not too negative. So this is the content of this remark. And once more, the same remark as before. So if you have a solution to your problem, then the function solves weakly this equation. Once more, you have Lagrange parameter here. But the point is, you can rescale it out. And so you find a real solution to the equation you want. Okay, so basically, as I was saying, so if you assume good assumption on the coefficient such that your energy is coercive, and if you assume that your nonlinearity is strictly subcritical in the subleft sense, then you have a non-trivial solution, which is very easy. And more interestingly, so if you assume that the vector V is only supported in the first component, and if you assume that the nonlinearity is then you can show that there exists at least one cylindrically symmetric with respect to the E1 axis solution. So here I do not say that every ground state has to have this property symmetry. I can only guarantee that there is at least one. So let me briefly do the sketch of the proof, which follow closely from work of Himmelbach and Lenzman. And so what is the technique? In fact, what you are doing, so you will define a transformation of your solution. And what is this transform? In fact, you will Fourier transform your solution, then you will Stein symmetrize it with respect to the n-1 last variable, and then you Fourier transform back. And so what is the effect of this transformation? So it preserves the mass, it preserves the momentum, and it has the very nice property to decrease all the derivative, the two norm of the derivative, and it increases the L2M norm for m greater than 1. And so basically, if you use this as a competitor in your energy, you will find that the energy is decreased by this. But the equality case is not trivial to handle. And so, yeah, there is also some work by Lanzmann on the equality case, but I will not talk about it. Okay. Next, let's talk about normalized solution. So that is solution obtained by minimizing a certain functional under mass constraint. And so more precisely, we will consider the following problem. So we will minimize this functional on function u belonging to H2 and with mass equal to mu. Okay. So first remark this time is if you get a minimizer of this problem, then you obtain a solution to this. This time alpha is not a given number, but it is a Lagrange multiplier. And so basically it is equal to this quantity. And the main point is it is not possible to scale out alpha. Like it is just not possible. So here is an existence result, which I obtained with Denis Bonner, Ederson, Moreira dos Santos, and Robson Nascimento. And so we assume that the coefficient in front of the B harmonic and the harmonic term are positive. And basically there is two regimes. So the first one is when sigma n is less than 2. And in this case, we can prove that the solution, the minimization problem, has a solution for every mass. And there is a second case when sigma n is between 2 and 4. And in this case, we see the apparition of a critical mass. And in fact, we can prove the existence of solution if and only if the mass is big enough. So this is a bit complicated, but it is just to say that we don't know what is happening if the mass is equal to the critical one and sigma n is equal to 2. We also obtain some asymptotic of the critical mass, and so basically, for instance, if you assume that gamma is very small, then you can prove that you have existence of solution for all mass. Okay, so let me also point out that in this result, in fact, we assume that sigma n is less than 4, and in fact, it is not possible to assume that you cannot let this nonlinearity to go up to the Sobolev critical exponent. And I will come back to this a bit later. Okay, so let me briefly show you the sketch of the proof. In fact, if you use Lyon's concentration compactness, you see that if you prove that the full energy is less than the quadratic term of the energy only, so which in this case is this quantity, which of course trivially is equal to 0, then you can prove that sequence of minimizer are pre-compact. And then basically we obtain instance of solution. So basically the main problem here is to prove that all energy functional is strictly negative. And so the main difficulty is the presence of 3 terms in the energy functional. Okay, so how are we proceeding? We define this rescaling of function, and it has the property to conserve the mass. So the mass of u is the same as the mass of u lambda. And so if you plug this and that into the energy, then you obtain this expression. And so you see quite easily a couple of things. So the first thing you see is if you take lambda large enough, and if sigma n is greater than 4, then this term dominates, and in fact, it goes to minus infinity. So which means that when sigma n is greater than 4, then you have no hope to find a minimizer of your problem. So that's why you cannot go up to the critical Sobolev exponent. The second quite easy case is when sigma n is less than 2. And so in this case, if you take lambda very easy, since sigma n is less than 2, then this term also dominates, and so you have for free that your energy is strictly negative. And so basically, the main difficulty is the case when sigma n is between 2 and 4, because in this case, you have a competition between these three terms. And so to deal with this problem, in fact, we adopt the same strategy as the one used by Jean-Jean and Luo and Cato, Dolbo, Sanchez, Solers to deal with the Maxwell-Schrödinger-Poisson system. And so this strategy, in fact, consists in looking for a three-term Gallardo-Nirenberg interpolation inequality. So, like, we don't care, but the point is you can prove that you can control the L2 sigma plus 2 norm by the mass, the L2 norm of the gradient, and the L2 norm of the Laplacian. And so basically, using this kind of stuff, you can show like when the energy is negative or not in a sharp way. Okay. So let me talk very briefly about the symmetry of this solution to the problem, and basically using like also the stuff of Landsman, we prove that, so if we assume that the nonlinearity is an integer, that there is at least one radially symmetric minimizer. And so the proof is exactly the same, and it follows Boulanger and Landsman. And so basically the idea is you take the Fourier transform of your solution. This time you take the symmetric decreasing rearrangement, and after you Fourier transform back. And so as previously, this transformation conserves the mass, it decreases all the derivative, and it increases the L2m norm. Okay, so another very interesting property of normalized solution is the fact that it is quite easy to prove that they are stable. So let me recall the definition of orbital stability. And so, okay, so if you have a standing wave theta, we say that theta is orbitally stable in H2 if you take a function phi0, so very close to u in H2, then the solution phi t of the dispersive equation starting from phi2 has to stay very close to u for all time up to the invariance of the equation, which consists in like just translation and rotation. And so with this definition, we are able to prove, so if we assume that sigma n is less than 4, and we take u a minimizer to our problem with a mass constraint, then we can prove that this solution is orbitally stable. And the proof is quite simple, and basically you just have to follow the strategy of Cazenave-Lyons. Okay, so next, let's look for the same problem, but this time for traveling wave. So as previously, basically the only difference is this term, and so the point is we want to minimize this functional under the constraint, under the mass constraint. Okay, and so here is the result you get. So you assume that the coefficient in front of the B Laplacian and the Laplacian are positive. You don't care about the V. And so, and this time you can prove that for sigma less than the minimum of 1 and 4 divided n, then you have existence for all mass. So which is in contrast with the result I have shown you before. And also, like exactly in the same way, you can prove using the Cazenave-Lyons technique that the solution you obtain is orbitally stable. Okay, so let me briefly do the sketch of the proof. So basically, we define A to be the inf of the quadratic term of the energy function. The inf on function u with a fixed mass equal to mu. And so, as I was telling previously, if you use the Lyon concentration compactness argument, in fact, to prove the compactness the Fourier compact of your solution, and so an existence of solution, you only have to prove that your energy functional is strictly less than this quantity, this real number. And so how we do this? In fact, you will just build a test function. And so to build it, basically, what you will do is you will consider a non-singular Green function of your equation. And basically, since it is somehow Helmholtz equation, this Green function, this non-singular Green function, will decay like x to the power 1 minus n divided by 2, and for all its derivative. So it is very usual, and it is the same thing if you consider a minus Laplace u minus alpha u equal to c. It will have the same decay, the same bad decay. And so using this function, we will build a computer. And so basically, we take this Green function, we cut it very far from the origin, and we normalize it in order to have a mass equal to mu. And so in this case, if you just test this function into your energy, in fact, you get this expression. And so it is quite easy to see that if sigma is less than 1, then you obtain a negative term. And so we are done. Okay, and another quite stupid remark. So as I was saying, like the existence result is for sigma less than the minimum of 1 and 4 divided by n. So basically, we have existence for all mass if the dimension n is greater than 4. But in fact, so if the dimension is less than 4, it is also very easy to show that you have a solution if the mass is large enough. And to do this, you just take whatever function and you multiply by a very large constant. And it is quite easy to see. Okay. And so quite interestingly, and this is really a typical problem for the traveling wave, you can consider another kind of minimization, which consists in the mass and the momentum at the same time. And so in this case, you are looking for this functional, and we will minimize this functional on the set of function u, so belonging to H2, such that it has mass equal to mu1, and it has momentum equal to mu2. Okay, so let me briefly do the sketch. So define notation, I will assume that the term in front of the B harmonic is equal to 0. So basically, we are only dealing like the classical Schrödinger equation, and beta, which is the coefficient in front of the Laplacian, will be equal to 1. So it is like really we consider the Schrödinger equation. So it's not very interesting in this case, but okay, it's simplified notation. So well. Okay. So in this case, once more, we will consider a scaling, and then what we want is a scaling which preserves the mass, of course, and also the momentum. And so one way to do it is to define this kind of scaling, which is anisotropic, of course. And so if you plug this scaling into your energy functional, then you get this expression. And so the point is, so as previously, like our goal is to show that this quantity is strictly negative. And how are we doing this? And basically, we will minimize with respect to lambda. And if you do this, then you find that your energy can be rewritten this way. And so in view of this expression, it is quite obvious that you are looking for an anisotropic Gallardo-Nirenberg equation. And so you can prove it quite easily. So if you assume that sigma n is less than 2, okay, so let me recall that I say that the B harmonic term does not exist. So this sigma n less than 2, in fact, corresponds to all subcritical, mass subcritical case. So I am not losing anything here. And so what you can show then is you can show that you can control the L2 sigma plus 2 norm by the mass Okay, here I forgot. So this is, I forgot a gradient. So it is a gradient with respect to the n-1 last variables, and by the gradient, the L2 norm of the gradient with respect to just the first one, the first component. Okay, and so basically you can rewrite this equation on this form. And once more, gradient, it is just a gradient with respect to the n-1 last coordinate. And so basically this corresponds exactly to this expression. And so with this constant, you can determine precisely when the energy is positive or not. And so you get this result. So once more, you assume that sigma n is less than 2, which corresponds to the full range of the mass subcritical case. And you can prove that depending on the quantity, depending on the mass and the momentum, that you have a minimizer if and only if this quantity is big enough. And once more, as previously, since the momentum and the mass are conserved quantity from the dispersive equation, then you can prove that the solution you obtain is also orbitally stable. Okay. Next, let's see what is happening in the supercritical case. So let me recall you that up to now, we always have made the assumption sigma n less than 4. So let me recall. So basically, if you consider this rescaling, which conserves the mass, then you plug it into your energy functional, and you see that here, so if this term is the sigma n is greater than 4, then letting lambda goes to plus infinity, then this term is dominant and it goes to minus infinity, at least when sigma n is strictly greater than 4. And so a priori, you cannot find a minimizer to your problem. Okay, so let me do just a brief comment on the critical case when sigma n is equal to 4. So in this case, you have a competition here between these two terms, and it is not clear what is happening. But so in fact, in this case, so when sigma n is equal to 4, which corresponds to the mass critical case, then you can prove that your energy is the energy of your minimizer is equal to 0 if the mass is small enough, or it goes to if the mass is large enough. And so, of course, in this case, you can prove that there is no solution to your minimization problem. And basically, in this case, we are exactly at the same case when sigma n is strictly greater than 4. So I will skip the sketch of the proof. And so, okay, so how to deal with the problem when the energy goes to minus infinity? And in fact, the idea is you will add a constraint. So you will consider exactly the same functional E, but you will on the space of function U, so with fixed mass, but you will assume that your function also has to satisfy Q of U equal to 0. So what is the functional Q? In fact, it corresponds to a Bose-F equation. And so basically, since also your equation satisfies the Bose-F identity, then intuitively, at least, this constraint has to be a natural constraint. Okay. So what is the advantage of adding this constraint? So here you will find it in the following three lemma. And this part is a joint work with Bonner, Gu, and Jean-Jean. And the first one also is obtained with these people. And so in this case, so if you assume that you are in the mass supercritical case and Sobolev subcritical case, so you assume that the mass is strictly positive, it's okay. And the point is, you can find there is a unique lambda such that this quantity so will belong to the set M of mu. So that is, you can, so this transformation, of course, conserves the mass, but the point is you can find a unique lambda such that this function satisfies the Porozaev constraint. And in fact, it turned out that this parameter lambda u also maximizes the energy. Okay. Another very important lemma is the following one, and it says that, in fact, thanks to the Porozaev constraint, then your energy is in fact coercive and bounded from below by a positive constant. And so, which means that here we are playing and we can find a solution of our problem by minimizing the energy. And the third lemma, which kind of follow from, as I was saying, the fact that the Porozaev identity is satisfied by all solutions, and so a Porozaev constraint is kind of a natural constraint, is the fact that you can find some Palais-Smelt sequence, so belonging to the manifold M for the energy. Okay, so what results we obtain? So, as previously, so we assume that the nonlinearity is mass supercritical but Sobolev subcritical. And we can prove this time that there exists a critical mass such that for all mass less than this critical mass, then you have a solution to your problem. And we can also show that this critical mass is equal, in fact, to plus infinity when the dimension is small. So that is, we have like solution for all mass if the dimension is small. Okay, so let me do briefly the sketch of this proof. Okay, and so the point is, this is quite standard, but so we have seen that there exists this Mel sequence, and you can prove that this Palais-Mel sequence converge weakly to some function u. You can prove that the Lagrange multiplier alpha also converge in Rn. You can prove that your solution goes to 0 in h-2, and you can prove that the limit function satisfies the equation. Okay, so this is pretty trivial, but the main point is the fact that if you can prove that the limit of the Lagrange multiplier is strictly greater than 0, then in fact you have a strong H2 convergence. Okay, so basically the whole problem boils down to prove that your Lagrange multiplier limit is strictly greater than 0. And so, in fact, you can prove it quite simply. So, if you look for any solution of this equation with mass equal to mu, in fact, you can prove that if the mass is sufficiently small, then, in fact, your Lagrange parameter, the lambda, is strictly greater than 0. And as previously, this critical mass is infinity if the dimension is small. Okay, so maybe let me skip the proof, but it is quite easy. In fact, you just have to use one more time the Porozaev identity, but okay, it is not really hard. Okay, so next, what can we say about the stability of this solution? So first, let me define what I'm calling instability by blowup. And so we say that the solution is unstable by blowup infinite time if you can find a function v, which is very close to your solution u, and the fact is, and you say that u is unstable by blowup if the solution phi to your dispersive equation with initial data equal to v blow up infinite time in the H2 now, which is quite standard. And it turned out that the solution we obtained previously are in fact unstable by blowup. And so more precisely, so if you assume one more time that you are in the mass critical or supercritical regime, but strictly less than the Sobolev Sobolev exponent. And you assume, of course, that the dimension of the space has to be greater than 2 to have blow up. And we also assume like this assumption on the nonlinearity, which is technical. And so we can prove now that the standing wave solution associated to radial normalized solution. So we need to assume that our solutions are radial. And in fact, we can prove that these solutions are unstable by blow up. And so in finite time, if beta, which is the coefficient in front of the Laplacian, is positive and in the whole range of the nonlinearity, or if we assume that beta is 0, we cannot consider the mass critical case. But in this case, so when beta is equal to 0 and the mass case, potentially we obtain a solution blowing up in infinite time. Okay, so let me briefly give you the proof of this result. And so basically the main ingredient is like a localized virial for our equation. And this has been introduced by Boulanger and Lenzman. And so basically, okay, it is not very important, but phi is a cutoff function, and you get it off like very far. And the good quantity to consider is this quantity, so this localized virial. And the point is, Boulanger and Lenzman are able to prove that if you take the derivative of this localized virial, then you get this quantity. So that is, you get 8 times the power of the F constraint plus some remainder. And basically, you need to, at least maybe not you need, but like use the radiality of your function in order to control this remainder. Okay. And if sigma is less than 2, then you have also this stuff with a remainder a bit simpler. But okay, and so this will be the main ingredient of your proof. And so more precisely, how you prove the instability by blow up. In fact, it is quite easy to show that. So you let U be your radial normalized solution. And in fact, you can find a scaling, so a lambda very close to 1, such that your function V is very close in H2 norm to your normalized solution. And moreover, it satisfies this true inequality. So that is, so basically, the function V has a full energy less than the normalized solution. It has a power of F constraint strictly negative, and it satisfies also E of V less than 0. And what is E? Basically, it is like you multiply the equation by U and integrate by part. Okay, so you can find a function V satisfying this property. And so now we consider the solution of the dispersive equation with initial data V, and we'll denote by T as the maximum time of existence of this solution. And so the first step is to show that, in fact, like this previous identity, in fact, all up to the time T. So that is, you can build a solution to your dispersive equation such that the energy is less than the one of the normalized solution. You will have like a strictly negative virial power of F identity, and you will have like the energy. So it is like your equation multiplied by U and integrate, and this will be less than 0. Okay, so this is the first step. And so using this first step, you can prove, in fact, that your localized virial, the derivative in time of the localized virial, is strictly less than minus some constant times the L2 norm of the gradient of your solution. And you also show that there exists a T such that your localized virial is less than 0. And so just the idea to prove this stuff is to consider two regimes depending on the sign of this quantity. But it is, once more, not very complicated. And so finally, what we are doing is we are assuming by contradiction that the time of existence of the solution phi is equal to infinity. And so what we are doing is we are integrating the virial between T1 and T. And so by the previous step, we have this inequality. And so now another thing is you can prove quite easily that the localized virial can be estimated from above by this quantity. So let's recall that the mass is a conserved quantity, so you can just ignore this step. And so at this point, which means that you can estimate minus this norm by the virial. And so you get this identity, okay? And basically, if you're setting z equal to this quantity, then you find that z prime satisfies this equation. And so this means that z has to blow up. So you prove that your solution is unstable by blow up infinite time. Okay, and I think I am done. So thank you for your attention.